Her soul torn from her body in agony, this entity speaks of the humbling power of the stars, a power that dwarfs even the gods. And he asks his companion about the recent meal. This smaller god, Io, who simply chirps in response. Idos agrees. The soul wasn't the best tasting. He wonders aloud about eating something different for once, but Io reminds him of their nature. 1,000 years of devouring souls born from the prayers and emotions of mortals, he supposes they should just be grateful to exist at all, but then a sudden gleam in the night sky, revealing the Greek god Nemesis, blade drawn, and warns her for trespassing on his sacred ground. Nemesis smirks, acknowledging his claim to the land, but Idos retorts that her cult trespassed first, and she knows exactly what he's talking about. His followers dragged her people away for a ritual, leaving them as sacrifices for him to consume. A memory flashes of his monstrous form terrifying a child, and Nemesis condemns him as a freak who feeds on the innocent. Idos deflects, claiming he can't control his worshippers. She calls him a god enslaved to the very mortals who feed him, standing across the clearing, and calling him pathetic. With a surge of green energy, she raises her blade. A sudden spray of red covers Idos' face. He looks down to see his companion, Io, struck down. Nemesis speaks of gods who are meant to help the world. She then turns the question on him. What is his purpose? As she accuses him of only bringing destruction, he cradles the fallen Io, a god of fear and ruin. She asks why a god like him even deserves to exist. Idos looks to the stars, thinking it must be nice to have a choice. She speaks of temples built in a god's name, of offerings of fruit, and why not screaming victims, and Idos wonders why a foul god like him even exists. Suddenly, the night sky rumbles with power as explosions of light rain down from above. Nemesis hovers above, calling him a coward, then dives down with a cry of destruction, taunting that it's all he's good for. As their weapons clash, her blade glows with a venomous green energy, and she drives it straight into his chest. A pained yet manic grin spreading across his face, he wonders if a lesser god like him can even win. His worshippers are scum, and his existence is pointless, until his eyes snap open with new resolve. Nemesis leaps back, intrigued by his sudden change, revealing that no other god has ever seen his power, and she wants to be the first to witness it. She charges, demanding he show his true strength before he dies, and a dark purple energy begins to rise from Idos' hand, erupting from the ground in vicious spikes that catch her by surprise. Nemesis is forced to dodge the sudden assault as Idos lunges forward, wreathed in purple flame, their powers colliding in a blinding flash. But Nemesis just smirks, unimpressed by his shadow manipulation. She reveals her power is vengeance, growing stronger with her hate, and asks if he wants a taste of it as she lands a devastating punch to his face, followed by a brutal slash from her sword. He slams into the ground, carving a trench in the earth, and struggles to stand the pain overwhelming him. He collapses, tempted to just lay there and give up. He's not as ready to die as he thought he was. Just then, his hooded worshippers arrive in the clearing. They call him the Devourer, and he takes a deep breath, his eyes narrowing with a cold new purpose. Nemesis watches from a distance, realizing he's ingesting their fear. As Idos addresses her, the goddess of revenge, he tells her she should have known better. Nemesis stares in shock at his new form, revealing this isn't shadow manipulation at all, his true power, his creation, explaining she attacked him in his own domain, trapping the goddess of vengeance completely. He declares this is his revenge. A blinding yellow light erupts from his palm, a massive explosion of pure power. This entire forest is obliterated in the blast as Idos stands alone in the crater, contemplating revenge. He looks at Nemesis's smoldering remains, feeling nothing at all. He considers that maybe his work isn't done as his hand drips with the blood of his followers. Even after all this, he still doesn't feel any better. A cosmic energy flows through the night sky. He glances to the side, sensing a presence, this Greek Olympian god Hermes, who seems unimpressed. Idos asks if he's here to kill him. He saw what Idos did to his own worshippers, explaining that without them, he'll soon perish anyway. But a higher power has different plans for him, a game to decide if he lives as a god or dies like a mortal. This is his punishment for killing Nemesis, an order from a god far greater than them. Idos erupts in a flash of purple energy, lunging at Hermes, but Hermes just smirks, hoping for a fight. He lunges forward to punish Idos himself, grabbing him by the face with blinding speed. He unleashes his Godspeed attack and kicking up a massive cloud of dust. The smoke clears from the powerful strike, revealing Idos beaten on the ground as Hermes taunts him that Zeus wants his head. He says a higher god insisted on this experiment before he can react. A new arrival stops the fight. This man Yora says he can't kill a candidate for the game. He wants things to be fun after all, remembering how pantheons have always tormented him. So why should he answer to some higher god now? Screaming that no divinity has ever done anything for him, Yora tells him if he died tomorrow, no god would care. And since no humans believe in him, they wouldn't notice either. But that's what makes him the perfect candidate for the god game, a deathmatch for the entertainment of the pantheons designed to purge useless divinities from the universe. Idos' rage finally begins to boil over as he stares down both Yora and Hermes. He questions their right to decide if he lives or dies, and declaring that only he can make that choice as he aims a glowing orb at Idos. A brilliant beam of light shoots forward. This energy freezes around him, trapping him in place. Idos slowly opens his eyes in a white void, finding a small bird-like creature before him. He looks at his long-lost friend in disbelief and pulls the creature into a tearful hug, asking if it's really alive. This creature lets out a familiar happy cry, and a single tear of joy rolls down Idos' cheek. He thought he would have to face this alone. A man with antlers wondering if this place is endless. He remembers Yora is the one who sent him here. Realizing this must be the death game he mentioned, he tries to summon his power, when a piece of paper suddenly flies past him, a single sheet. Floating in the endless white, a hand reaches out and snatches it from the air, tossing it aside as if it knows nothing about him. A single, ordinary door in this strange place. Standing before it with a sense of dread, he admits he has a bad feeling about this. This door swings open to reveal a path through the stars. Idos wonders if a public execution would have been easier as he stands alone in the vast white space. He takes a step onto the stone path, but he soon discovers he's not the only one here. Four contestants stand on a massive cross-shaped arena. New arrival Natalio Williams demands to know who they are, while a Slavic god Chernobog scoffs at being paired with humans. Another contestant remains silent, his face hidden by a paper bag, and Idos just stares at them all, calling them freaks. A host in a top hat thanking them for their patience. He descends in a beam of light, welcoming them to the god game. This mortals, he explains, are here for a chance at glory, while the gods are playing to avoid complete eradication. He advises them to follow the rules, but gets cut off as Chernobog mocks the plan to make gods fight humans. Natalio immediately fires back, challenging the horned god, but the host calmly asks why it's an insult. If they truly believe they're superior to mortals, then they have a simple way to prove it. This host reveals the pantheons have deemed them all expendable. Chernobog says they must prove they're worth keeping, but Natalio is furious at their condescending tone, asking the paperbag man if he knows anything. If this game is meant to judge a god's value, then why are mortals even here? This host reveals their first challenge. Gladiator jousting. Chernobog has never heard of such a game. This rules are simple. Knock your opponent off the platform. Idos realizes they can use any means necessary to win. Understanding this is a fight to the death. Natalio demands to know who their opponents are, and the host explains only two will advance, leaving the definition of opponent up to them. A 10-minute timer suddenly appears in the sky with a final clap of his hands as Natalio stares at a massive glowing chainsaw, and Chernobog laughs, already certain of his victory. This paperbag man is left with a simple wooden plank. He calls out to the others, proposing an alliance, suggesting they butcher the paperbag freak. First, Chernobog notes that Natalio has already adapted to the death game, while the man with the bag is acting more realistically, terrified, a reaction that makes him less likely to survive, reminding him that they've met once before centuries ago. He recalls a prank where Idos tricked him into holding the sky, and another incident involving spilled wine at a wedding. Idos just grins, brushing it all off as ancient history. Chernobog suggests the two of them as gods should team up and crush the feeble humans to ensure their own survival, but Natalio shouts back, telling Chernobog not to listen. His eyes glancing up at the countdown clock, he seems to be weighing his options carefully, then turns to his shoulder to ask for advice. This creature lets out two sharp cries in response, and a sly grin spreads across Chernobog's face. Chernobog stomps forward, approaching the cowering man, ordering the paperbag contestant to get up. Idos and Natalio are furious at his choice. He calls Natalio a boy too eager for violence, and he calls Idos an arrogant god just like him. If this game judges worth, he doubts they have any. He then turns his attention to the paperbag man, recalling a past where he knew what it was like. He holds out a hand, asking if it's frustrating, offering an alliance to make them all pay. He asks if he's ready to fight, not just die, and the paperbag man takes his hand, saying he knows what it's like to be underestimated. He senses there's more to this man than meets the eye, but the guy just wobbles nervously with his plank. Chernobog is just glad he's not as talkative as the others, calling the alliance between a god and a human disgusting. Offering Natalio the honor of fighting alongside him, Natalio just revs his chainsaw, mocking Idos' arrogance as the two newly formed teams face off. Meanwhile, Chernobog asks his new partner if he's afraid, and the man admits he doesn't know if he can do this. Chernobog finds this reaction completely normal for a mortal, but that's exactly what makes him the perfect partner. All of those raw emotions, especially the fear, calling it a death wish to even try, but Chernobog simply smirks, confirming that he does. Refusing to die just because another god willed it, he unleashes a massive blast of dark energy. Idos realizes Chernobog is exploiting his one-armed weakness, trapping him with no room to maneuver, leaving him no choice but to face the attack head-on. He charges forward, meeting the blast with his own power as Chernobog mocks his decision to engage in close combat. But Idos' eyes glow with fury, telling him to step aside so he can butcher the useless human himself, as the paperbag man shouts for him to stay away. Dark energy begins to swirl around the paperbag man as Idos mocks Chernobog for having no worshippers, calling his very existence a stain on the world, and he asks why a god like him even exists before slamming him into the ground with brutal force. He turns his cold gaze to the terrified human, but on the ground Chernobog admits it's true that all he's ever done is cause suffering. He thought saving Io was his only good deed, this one positive act in his entire lifetime, but watching the strong prey on the weak reminds him of the torment he's endured from other gods, that maybe he can do one more good thing. And he unleashes a final desperate burst of power. A pillar of dark energy erupts from the ground as Chernobog channels his remaining power. He collapses, having used his last prayer, hoping the attack was enough to stop Idos as he begins to rise from the rubble. And his partner cries out a warning, but it's too late. Natalio is right behind him. This chainsaw-wielding maniac leaps high into the air, and Chernobog realizes who the real threat is. Reasoning that taking out a god ends the game as he holds back the chainsaw with one hand. Natalio is in shock, unable to budge him. Natalio feels like he just hit a solid mountain as the paper bag man asks Chernobog to use his magic again. But the Slavic god admits he can't beat him, explaining there's a limit to his power. Gods normally draw strength from their worshippers' prayers, but he can also convert negative energy into power, a source he doesn't have in this place, and using his partners. Fear only gave him one shot. This paperbag man panics, but Chernobog is still thinking, furious they dare turn their backs on him. He mocks the guy for getting cocky after one block. But the plank blocks the chainsaw once again as the paperbag man realizes it wasn't a fluke. This chainsaw finally shatters the wooden plank. Natalio looks up in a daze, wondering how he got on the ground. As the paperbag man offers a hand, asking if he's okay, he simply holds out his hand, waiting for a response. Chernobog realizes the weapons Yora gave them have special properties. But a powerful weapon is nothing if you're unwilling to use it. Snarling that the weakling will learn this lesson the hard way, he brings his weapon down in a brutal arc, and blood erupts from the paperbag man's shoulder. Natalio bursts out laughing, calling him an idiot for helping an enemy, reminding him this is a fight to the death. He tells the guy to just kneel and die if he's not prepared to kill. This paperbag man understands he's supposed to be the one to die, but even so he doesn't want to die here. He hurls Idos off the platform, sending him crashing down below. Chernobog says he can either accept his fate or defy it, declaring he already made his choice when he picked him. This paperbag man asks what he's supposed to do now, but a blue-haired combatant rushes in, throwing a punch. Chernobog grabs the attacker's arm, stopping the next hit. Chernobog taunts the attacker for not finishing him off. As the blue-haired combatant's arm begins to crack, he reveals his true demonic form, vowing payback. He mocks Chernobog for wasting his power so early. As the demon hurls his own weapon back at him, giving the human permission to finish the paperbag man, Natalio rises to his feet, ready for the final showdown. He declares that only one of them will leave alive. This paperbag man knows everyone expects him to die, but gripping his weapon, he decides it won't be that way, while the paperbag man realizes he must change to survive. A memory flashes back to him being beaten by bullies. This bullies stand over him, mocking his face. They surround him, holding out a paper bag. He holds it out, telling him to take it. They threaten to kill him if he ever shows his face at school again. This lead bully grins, daring him to try it on. He slowly puts the bag over his head as their laughter echoes, their faces twisting into demonic masks. A promise to do anything to survive. Back in the present, the final battle begins, but the paperbag man doesn't even flinch. His body now crackles with a strange blue energy, and he meets the attack head-on, realizing his opponent is not just tough, but fast. He's no martial artist, but he's clearly fought before, and our boy just stares back in silence. This Slavic god is taking a brutal beating, and he wonders how he can possibly help, but Natalio gives him no time to think. Another brutal strike is blocked by the plank, and he finally understands his enemy, this kind of person who loves to belittle others, this kind of bully who makes you feel small. All his life he's suffered from people like this, but someone finally believed in him, and if he's going to die here anyway, putting every ounce of strength into his plank, this chainsaw wielder is stunned by the raw power. Our boy winds up for another attack, smashing the plank into Natalio with blinding speed, just barely managing to grab on at the last second, cursing in a panic as he dangles helplessly, and he looks up to see the paperbag man looming over him. Natalio's bravado vanishes, and he starts to plead, suggesting they team up to fight the gods together. This paperbag man just looks down at his fingers, stomping on them with a sickening crack, and he lets out a final scream as his grip fails. He begs for his life one last time, but our boy simply watches him fall into the abyss. As he plummets, Natalio finally understands, because the paperbag man sees it clearly now. A hand pats Chernobog's head as he cries in shock, who asks if his partner is also scared. But the paperbag man's intentions are far darker as our boy grabs him by the head, provoking a scream of pure betrayal. He thanks his partner for being a power source. Masked Observer is impressed by this cruelty, admitting he's taken a liking to the human, but he wonders if it will be enough as the demon swoops in for the kill. Chernobog is helpless, caught in a vortex of pain, letting out a final agonizing scream. This clock ticks down with less than 2 minutes left, and the demon unleashes a devastating energy beam and attack. Chernobog is too weak to stop, but the blast is intercepted just in time. This paperbag man stands crackling with stolen power and unleashes a furious counterattack as a new warrior slams into him with a powerful kick, sending him crashing down to the arena floor. Our boy stumbles back, shocked by this sudden transformation, while the masked observer pieces it all together. He initially thought they were two separate gods, but now he sees the truth. They're two halves of one being, a deity so tormented, he split himself in two, whose true strength is only revealed when they are united. This fused god explains Natalio's fear triggered the transformation, and he asks our boy if he can keep up with his power. This paperbag man trembles but agrees to try and answer. His new partner seems to accept. This demon roars in disgust, calling them freaks, and a mortal too scared to even show his face, screaming that the universe would be better off without them. And together they slide down the stone path, charging headfirst into the enemy's attack. A massive wave of blue energy erupts towards them, and the god thinks he wouldn't mind dying here, but his fist still crackles with defiant power. He refuses to be killed by such scum, declaring it only makes him want to fight harder. As our boy follows up with a heavy slam, this demon can't believe a human is this strong, but the god gives him no time to recover while our boy stands ready for the next move. and impales the kid with a sharp wing while our boy holds a blade to his throat. And the demon starts to sweat with fear. They unleash a final combined attack. He screams that he is the almighty Chernobog. But the fused deity just gathers his power. Idos taunts the demon, asking how it feels to be a battery, and the black god can only stare in horror. He apologizes for ever looking down on Idos, insisting that gods should look out for each other. He even tries to reason with our boy, asking what the others will think. But Idos coldly replies that they'll do nothing at all. He gathers a massive amount of purple energy, asking the demon why he thinks they were chosen for this game, because they're both considered a waste to the world. With that, he unleashes the final devastating blast, a torrent of power meant to erase him completely, and Idos' hand clenches as the deed is done. He looks at his hand, surprised by his own strength, musing that even gods fear death. The most this clock hits 15 seconds, announcing the survivors, Idos and 4. But then his mask begins to crumble and break apart. This pieces of his mask flying away into the void. A small winged creature appears, praised for its work, and lands on Idos' shoulder with a triumphant cry. Idos gives a slow, deliberate clap for their victory. Idos looks up at the masked observer, who calls this a surprise. He congratulates Idos for defeating a superior god without any prayers, then turns his attention to the trembling 4. This observer covers his mouth, intrigued by the human getting right in his face, and calling him interesting. This sudden attention catches them both off guard as the observer announces the first round has concluded, and he tells them to proceed to the next stage, but the observer just smirks, refusing to spoil the surprise. He tells them to find out for themselves as the door creaks shut. And 4 tries to stop him, but it's too late. He realizes they don't really have a choice, but he's not ready to die here and vows to keep fighting. Turning to Idos with a look of gratitude, he waves, promising he'll never forget that Idos saved his life. But Idos just smirks, telling him not to give him credit. Idos turns to his winged companion, calling it Yora, as the creature flies off his shoulder, dropping a cloak, revealing its strange skull-like face. Idos dons the cloak his companion brought him, warning the observer to choose his next words carefully. And with a glare, he demands to be sent home. This observer simply scoffs at his victory over Chernobog, and in a flash he moves to attack, landing a swift, heavy blow to Idos' gut. He tells the pagan god to remember his place, and Idos seethes, realizing a fight is pointless, knowing he's too weak to win, as he is now gesturing to a new door where the others await. He then asks Idos for a small favor to at least try and mingle with the others. His final warning echoes. Idos' life depends on it. He curses the robotic host under his breath. A few of them whisper, surprised to see him here, leaving Idos confused by their talk of sponsors. Just then a voice rings out, welcoming the familiar faces. A flamboyant host with spider legs welcomes the gods, while Idos scoffs at the prize of a single wish. He looks up, realizing who holds all the power, seeing a lone ruler on a distant throne, wondering if they're all trapped here too. Suddenly, a voice calls out to the lone deity, and Hades, king of the underworld, makes his entrance. He mocks Idos for being a god without prayers. He calls him nothing more than a lost idea, saying his divine art is the only thing keeping him alive. Hades admits he watched the fight with Chernobog, calling it quite a match, but Idos notices he isn't upset about Nemesis, calling her erratic and bound to be eliminated anyway, and clarifying she was Zeus's champion, not his. His attention then shifts to the main stage, and Idos notes the bad blood between brothers. They both look up at a massive screen as a new host announces the first contestants. First up is a legendary German warrior. He's known for slaying a dragon or two. Hades confirms these are some of the best participants, while a cat-eared goddess decides to sponsor Siegfried. Idos is still confused by the concept of sponsors, and Hades explains these are contestants in the god game, and the gods are betting on who will win, and learns the chips are based on a god's followers. This more chips bet, the more power a champion borrows, but Hades mocks him for having no followers at all. He explains that betting lends divine champion, and the more you invest, the stronger they become. Hades explains they can spread their bets across champions, but with millions of souls on the line, they must choose carefully. But Hades cuts him off, telling him to focus. Meanwhile, the announcer introduces the next contestant, a true wild card. Idos is shocked to hear this fighter has no name, as Hades smirks, saying a nickname will suffice. This host presents the quiet warrior who faced Chernobog, announcing him to the entire hall as 4. 4 stands awkwardly on stage, sweating under his bag, and the entire arena falls into a dead silence. This other gods are in disbelief, questioning if this is a joke, while the host tries to sell him as a genuine godslayer. This crowd erupts in anger, calling him a coward. Their hateful glares and threats surrounding the terrified human as Hades asks if 4 is his friend, and Idos bluntly says no, clarifying they only fought together to survive. Hades flashes a wicked, sharp-toothed grin at his answer on stage. The host tries to calm the furious crowd, telling 4 he'll have to wait for any leftover sponsors. But a voice cuts through the chaos, calling out to Anansi. Hades declares he'd like to sponsor the young man. Even Idos watches, completely taken aback by the move, but Hades asks if he looks like he's joking. He wants to put all his prayer on the boy in the paper bag, calling him mad for betting on someone so feeble. He looks down at the terrified 4, saying he has a good feeling. Idos' companion questions the wisdom of betting everything on one champion, but Hades just poses a simple question: what if he's right? Down on the stage, 4 looks up at the balcony as 4 bows, deeply thanking him over and over. Hades smirks, teasing that they are friends after all, while Anansi declares that 4 at least has a shot now. Looking out a window, he sees they're floating in space. He deduces the game's true purpose: To eliminate old gods and create new ones in the first round, divine powers were nullified, making it a perfect test to weed out the unworthy, but now he knows there's a prize for the winner. His hand glowing as he considers the power of a wish, he thinks of his past, his people, his very existence, and how a single wish could change everything for them. Suddenly, a new voice questions his desire to erase himself as a masked figure in a suit, calls his wish pitiful. He asks Idos if he's really so confident after just one round. Idos stands silently listening to the warning. As the figure opens a portal announcing round 2 is beginning. Back in the arena, another goddess chooses to sponsor. Tomo goes in. As the king of Olympus glares down at the proceedings as Poseidon tells him to keep an eye out for interesting fighters, saying she's left to handle a crisis. While he drinks and Zeus tiredly asks what the problem is this time, she reminds him of the rogue god killing their kin. Hera is furious that he's forgotten his own daughter's killer, but Zeus believes Idos is too weak to survive the game anyway as he scoffs at Nemesis for losing to a god with no followers. Frustrated, she tells him he's missing the point entirely. Letting a minor god get away with this is a sign of weakness. She insists an Olympian must be the one to take his life. She asks what will happen if he targets another of their children, revealing Idos has already fought their son Hermes. Zeus is taken aback, but Hera confirms the confrontation. She warns that the other pantheons will see their inaction, and that they're already laughing at how far Olympus has fallen, which finally makes Zeus snap, shouting enough. His divine power erupts, cracking the floor beneath them. Idos arrives in a heavenly realm, questioning his restraints as his guide explains every divine participant is shackled, and with a wish of good luck he prepares to leave. He's met by another contestant, Helios, the god of the sun. Though Idos finds it far too bright for his tastes, he assumes they're in the land of the gods, a place he never had enough prayer to enter, and he realizes it's just the two of them, wondering if killing Helios is his ticket out, but Helios calmly warns him it's not worth trying. He reminds him that his powers are just a fraction of their true strength. He can feel his own power being suppressed by the chains, asking if the rumors about the wish are true as Idos theorizes that the most worshipped god is the strongest. Helios playfully asks if the wish has sparked his interest, leaving Idos stunned that he even knows his name. Helios boasts that he knows everything under the sun. Helios tells him once his eyes adjust to the light. Idos wonders if something is getting closer as Helios points to a golden steed in the sky. Is pulled across the heavens by his very own horses. He tells Idos he can probably guess the next game, leaning in close to his divine steed, and asks if he's ever been in a chariot race as Helios mocks him for never being invited by the Olympians, noting that since Idos has no followers he gets last pick, meaning each team will have one god and two humans. Helios then moves on to the rest of the rules, pointing out the other floating islands host different teams. One team member will steer the chariot, while two defend it, which grant random power-ups upon contact. He then casually adds that killing is allowed. Helios confirms it, saying an unknown number will advance. And now it's time to meet their teammates, much to Idos' annoyance as Helios peeks out, asking if he wants to meet his allies. As a strange contestant with a paper bag on their head steps forward, then erupts with joy, realizing they're on the same team. They leap towards Idos with open arms, only to trip and slam face first into the ground. Idos flatly denies it, but the baghead enthusiastically agrees. He then realizes their third member is still missing, just as another portal opens to reveal a new arrival. A woman with glowing eyes steps through the light, and Idos knows she's a highly sought-after fighter. He wonders why such a powerful warrior ended up with them, disgusted to be teamed with a one-armed god. She then turns on the other teammate, calling them pathetic trash. She warns them to pull their own weight or die, leaving them terrified. Idos realizes why she ended up on their team. Her terrible attitude must have driven everyone else away. Helios then announces it's time to meet their chariot, and Idos looks toward the sky with apprehension, pulling a gloomy chariot with a face carved into its front. Two dark horses land with a thud, their presence ominous. Helios just laughs, explaining the rides are synced to the captain, which he reveals is none other than Idos himself. With everyone situated, Helios declares the race will begin soon, but Tomo asks about the course and its finish line. This bag-headed teammate agrees, seeing no clear path. Revealing the track for round 2 is the entire world. He explains this race has no set finish line, because every chariot is racing to reach him, the sun. This team is shocked by the impossible task ahead. Helios grins, calling it a race worthy of the gods, and Tomo scolds her teammate for questioning a sun god's logic. He tells them to decide on a driver and get ready as the mismatched team braces for the race to begin. But after that, he can't use any power-ups. With a cheerful wave, he wishes them all good luck. And with a flash of light, the race begins as Tomo yells at them to get a move on, but they admit they have no idea how to fly a Pegasus. She grabs the reins to show them how it's done. They plummet towards the islands below, and the horses finally obey, yanking them skyward. When Idos notices a small skeletal bird near his head, he reveals he can understand the creature, which suggests they focus on finding a speed power-up. And just then the baghead spots one below just as another chariot attacks them, confirming they're after the same power-up, ordering their driver to get them closer, though she doesn't need to be right beside them, promising to do his best as he charges forward, calmly telling him there won't be a next time. This attacker's face fills with shock, and Idos notes his followers never speak to him, leaving him to wonder if he'll ever find an equal. This memory fades on his wish for an equal. As Tomo's blade connects, this rival spearman is stunned by her impossible speed, and Idos yells at their driver to get into position. In a flash, the spear wielder is eliminated from the race. This samurai turns, realizing she has nowhere to run as the horned woman's eyes glow with murderous intent. She screams, lunging forward for the kill, only for her spear to be blocked by the chariot. This attacker is stunned by the sudden interception. And the baghead asks if he did a good job. Tomo lands back on the chariot, praising his timing, wondering if he's the support she's been looking for. Their enemy is absolutely furious at the failed attack. Tomo readies her weapon again, preparing to end it, but the horned woman laughs, refusing to be ordered to die, fired by a dark-skinned god from the enemy chariot. Just as Idos leaps in front of her to block the shot, this god unleashes his power, striking their chariot head-on. This enemy's attack sends Idos and Tomo flying as Idos curses the one who attacked them. This baghead asks if his driving is improving as another chariot fires on them. He says he's trying. Tomo despairs she'll die with these idiots. And Idos agrees. Their driver points out another team will get the power-up first. He asks his driver if he believes in him. Idos accepts his trust, unleashing a dark power. She wonders what kind of god he truly is. This ensnared team panics, trying to cut themselves free, and the god demands to know how he's using divine art. This dark-skinned god is completely stunned by this turn of events, as the knight's chariot is obliterated in a flash of blue light, a blast that catches the attention of Idos' team. Idos himself turns back, trying to understand the chaos. When another chariot appears, warning they're being targeted, Tomo notes this new team seems dangerous. Just as 4 finally grabs the speed power-up, because he has a very bad feeling about this, a hunch that this new team led by Artemis the Olympian is after him. This scene shifts to a memory of Zeus and another goddess, where he asks Artemis about the team she's chosen, introducing Jaya, an ex-convict, and Joan of Arc, the saint warrior. Artemis cuts him off, demanding to know why he's here. She seethes with rage, asking why he'd show his face. But he offers her a way out, a chance to be saved. He'll help her escape her fate if she kills a specific participant for him, and she smirks, questioning his concern for her situation. Artemis laughs, blaming him and the Olympians for this game, scoffing at his offer to help her get free. Zeus reveals her target murdered her half-brother Hermes. He asks if she'd really give up her immortality, reminding her the odds of survival are almost zero. He shows her the mountain of bodies from the first round alone, insisting she won't survive without his help. He even offers to find sponsors for her friends, and Joan agrees, saying it's not just about her. If there's a chance for more sponsors, they should take it. Artemis clicks her tongue, clearly annoyed by their logic. This memory shows Idos pierced by a glowing green arrow. Back in the present, Artemis calmly tells her target to stay still while Tomo screams at 4 to get them out of there. But 4 is still trying to understand the new power-up. But Idos leaps in front of 4 to take the hit, a dark power of shadow manipulation, creating a shield to block the attack, leaving Artemis completely stunned by his power. Just then, 4 finally activates the power-up, scoffing at his weak divine art and lack of followers. She tells Joan they'll find another power-up to catch them, vowing to get her team out of this hell. Their chariot soars through the sky like a comet, and 4 breathes a sigh of relief at his timing. He wonders how they'll ever catch the lead chariot, only to see Idos has been struck by the arrow as the arrow falls from his body to the floor. Idos struggles to his feet, trying to hide his pain, but Tomo calls him out for being lucky to escape. She says he's practically mortal, a failure sent to this game, defending his leader's true power, pointing out he doesn't look very scary right now, explaining his divine art converts fear into power, leaving his shield too weak to block the attack. As 4 asks about the different types of power, while divine power is borrowed from a sponsor like Hades, 4 learns his own power has limits. She tosses it to him, telling him to wrap his wound himself. Realizing this is the first time anyone's helped him, warning them not to meet its deadly gaze. But she tells them they don't know her true power, charging straight for the monster below. A flashback reveals her past as a warrior, a blade wielded in someone else's war when her lord died. Her purpose banished with him to finally live for herself. Tomo calls upon her divine power. This basilisk's eyes widen in its final moments as her blade slices its head clean in 2, while Tomo mocks the legend of the basilisk's gaze, smirking that it doesn't matter if she kills it first. Her attack splits the monster's skull wide open. 4 swoops in with the chariot to catch her. She casually says she wasn't sure they'd make it. Idos demands to know why she hid her power, asking why she would ever reveal her true strength. She reminds them that in this game they're still enemies. 4 stammers in protest, but Idos cuts him off, but he warns her that this mindset will also get her killed, because this death game is filled with formidable foes. Idos warns her that if she truly wants to live, they have no luxury to hold back their power, and Idos says Io told him to be a team player. Tomo finally relents, agreeing to be more transparent, but only if they share their secrets in return. 4 makes the deal as Idos claims he has nothing to hide. He then tells 4 to start the next leg of their journey. A white-haired god panics in the year 500 BC. A hand brutally snaps his head to the side as he's told he should have expected this outcome. This is Chernabog, the black god, who tells him to be quiet. Belebog warns him about defying the new god, but Chernabog mocks his brother's blind faith in the pantheons. He tells Belebog to think for himself, for once screaming that something is clearly wrong with this new deity, claiming he has always tried to defend his brother, but Chernabog scoffs at his loyalty to the establishment, declaring this is why the heavens will always see Chernabog as a villain. A white-haired man asks if he's really dead. A robed god confirms he was killed in the first round, calling him pathetic for losing to a god with no worshippers. This game, he explains, is to cleanse the unworthy from the universe, scratching his skin, consumed by the need to find him back in the present. Belebog watches from a snowy cliff. He finally accepts that his brother Chernobog is gone. He wonders how he can possibly atone for his actions, furious that he doesn't know his own divine power. 4 panics, saying no one gave him a manual. He nervously asks if she could teach him how to use it. He tells 4 to focus on his power while he drives. Idos explains divine power is a fraction of a god's own strength. He tells 4 the knowledge is already inside him. He reveals his power feeds on negative emotions. She asks how she can trust him not to betray them. If he ever kills her, it will be to her face, warning her to take her hands off him, grabbing the reins and shouting for them to stop. Tomo wonders what happened here, but Idos dismisses it, snatching a red orb from the air as they fly past. This world would be better if he'd never existed. Idos says he'd use his wish to change his own destiny, asking Tomo if that's not good enough for her. Suddenly, the entire team is shocked by an arrival, a voice mocking a god who despises his own purpose. For and Tomo demand to know where he came from. This winged attacker grabs him by the cloak. Realizing they've been led into an ambush, he spots one enemy team, Kikigyo and Supe. He glares back up at the strange attacker, and Idos looks on confused as Io flies toward him. 4, now glowing with red energy, taunts his new foes.